It doesn't benefit you whatsoever to stay in a place of brokenness, to stay in a place of disappointment when you have the power to express those thoughts and express those feelings and take the necessary steps to change those things. It benefits you in no way to take yourself through that type of mental exercise for the sake of making someone else happy or for the sake of making sure everybody else is pleased with you.
Hey there, it's me, Rainie Howard, and welcome to this special episode of the Rainie Howard Show. People pleasing, that's something that I struggle with for years, but I can say I have improved and overcame a lot when it comes to people pleasing. What do you think about that?
I think it's something to consider. Because I think there's ways that people can operate as a people pleaser and not know that they really operating in that way.
Yeah.
You could think that you just being nice, to people. I think I probably looked at stuff like that where I was operating as a people pleaser, but I thought that because I was doing it from the basis of being kind, it wasn't the same as being a people pleaser.
Yeah. I felt like I noticed it actually at a very young age. I noticed it probably in maybe fourth grade or something. And the way that I noticed it is that I wanted people to be happy. And if someone asked me for something, I didn't want to say no. And I struggled to say no when I really wanted to say no, but I didn't want to say no because I didn't want to hurt their feelings or I didn't want them to be mad at me.
Oh, okay.
And so I remember thinking why do I always say it? So I was thinking I'm just a really nice person. And most people think, oh, you're just nice. But I don't believe that's being nice. I believe that's a form of you lacking in self-love. That's a form of you not allowing yourself to voice what your opinion, what you desire, what you want or don't want.
So what was it, or how did you come to recognize that certain instances, it wasn't about you just being a good person. It was about you being a people pleaser. How did you recognize that? Because I don't think that that's something that can people easily recognize. But how did you recognize that?
Well, I began to go on a journey of healing. And that's a really good question because when I got on that journey of healing, I knew my story. I had this story. I knew my story and how, being a young girl and seeing my mom and dad argue and fight. And it was, toxic, abusive energy around me at a very early age. I can say between age 2 till about 5.
Mm-hmm.
I saw them argue, fighting, because my mom at the time, that's when she got her own place. I was 2 years old when she got her own apartment. She moved out of the house with my grandmother. And that's where a lot of the abuse, the toxic behavior happened. My dad was very jealous and possessive. And so he wanted to control my mom. And he did that with physical, verbal abuse. And so, of course, being a little child, I internalized a lot of that energy. And so what happened was I carried that throughout my life, even in my adult years, until I began to write. And I wrote my book, You Are Enough, Overcoming People Pleasing and Emotionally Unavailable Relationships. In writing this book, not only did I find my healing, I discovered therapy. I discovered meditation. I learned about the subconscious mind. I learned so much just during the process of writing that book. And I actually heard someone say they had a similar childhood like mine.
Uh-huh.
And she said that she realized through therapy that she was a people pleaser. And when people would talk bad about her, as she became famous and successful in her career as an author and everything, she said it bothered her when she would see that people talked about her in a negative way. And she realized the reason she felt so bad, she knew what they were saying. It wasn't really who she was. But she said she felt bad because it would cause people to be mad at her. And she didn't want people to be mad at her like daddy was mad at mommy.
Okay.
And the anger that came from her dad and him being mad, she wanted that to stop. And so anytime someone was going to be mad towards her, she internalized that and she became a people pleaser.
Okay. So that's what you felt.
Exactly.
The people pleasing piece came from you not wanting people to be upset with you in the same way that you saw your father being upset.
That same energy of anger and, the toxic energy that came from my childhood, I was resisting that in being a people pleaser and not saying no and not wanting them to be mad at me, because being mad at me would create, to me, in my mind, it was going to create that same energy that I was running from.
Yeah. Okay. So that's how you were able to acknowledge it. And so it sounds like for the purpose of really addressing it, you have to get to the root of it.
I had to get to the root. And it goes with, and in the book, it talks about also emotionally unavailable relationships, because I also was seeking emotionally unavailable relationships. So the people who really didn't want anything to do with me, who really wasn't pursuing me, I would constantly internalize, think about, why didn't they reach out to me? Why didn't they remember me? Why didn't they call me? Why didn't they invite me? And so those are the emotionally unavailable relationships people pleasers go after.
Mm-hmm.
It's the very thing that's hurting them and keeping them in that same mindset of not being enough.
Yeah.
And that's why I wrote the book, You Are Enough, because I had to learn how to overcome not only people pleasing, but attracting and going after emotionally unavailable relationships, friendships, co-workers, people just wanting to network and be around certain people, and those people not accepting me and not really pursuing me that way.
Yeah.
So it's like people that want to be in the in crowd or whatever industry you're in or where you're going, and just feeling like, why aren't they reaching out to me? Why aren't they inviting me? Why aren't they pursuing me? And then there are people that do this in their romantic relationships. And that's why one of the reasons why I added on the cover of the book, You Are Enough, is it real love or your need for validation?
Yeah.
And that was actually a question that I started with. I had a conference workshop years ago, right around the time I was writing the book. And I opened up the conference. I opened up my talk with, is it real love or your need for validation? Are those relationships you in, are they really purposeful? Is that friendship, that friend may be a friend to your pain, but an enemy to your purpose.
Yeah.
And so you want that friendship because it feeds more of the pain that you have, but it's killing your purpose. It's killing your destiny. It's killing your self-love, self-image, self-worth.
Yeah. When I think about myself and I ask myself, have I dealt with these situations, or what type of things have occurred that made me think about people pleasing? I think about working in jobs and just being agreeable with people and the crowds and the ideas that, say, my bosses have had and the people that I worked with have had. It took me until maybe not too far in my career to consider that what I was doing was based in people pleasing, because I thought that I really had the idea that I was doing what I was supposed to do. I was being responsible, and that I was just being a good person, and I was trying to get things done. But ultimately, I was burdened by the responsibility of making sure everyone was comfortable, everyone was pleased, everyone was happy.
I know that feeling.
And really not not really taking care of my own self to the point to where recognizing there were moments where I needed to say no. Well, there were moments where I needed to pass along some responsibilities to some other people so that I didn't carry that burden and I didn't carry that responsibility to make sure everything was happening or making sure everything got done.
Yeah. I can agree with that. I can relate to that too. Did you ever find yourself as a people pleaser in your personal relationships outside of your career?
In my personal relationships, I would say, when I think back, I say yes. I say yes from the standpoint of always wanting things to be happy, people to be happy, and not really wanting to, just trying to avoid conflict, trying to make sure that no issues came up, especially as it related to the things that I did and the contribution that I was making, and considering, all the things that we were progressing through and towards, always wanting people to be happy, wanting you to be happy, wanting the kids to be happy, and just having that heavy burden of like frustration if some conflict came up when in my mind things were going great and I was somewhat accommodating for what everybody else felt and what everybody else needed, as opposed to putting any of my direct feelings first or direct ideas first. More so like, this is what the family need, this is what you need. I'm gonna make sure I do these things. I'm gonna make sure those are my top priority, regardless of how hard I gotta work and what I gotta do, make sure everybody's happy. And then having ultimate frustration if the results were nobody was happy or there was a frustrating moment.
Yeah.
Even if that moment was indirect to what the contribution, it was the fact that there was frustration. The whole idea of people pleasing in my mind is making sure that everybody's happy all the time, making sure everybody agrees with you all the time, not wanting to have any issues or conflicts and trying to avoid them at best cost.
So how did you overcome that? Like, did you overcome it? Or are you still being a people pleaser?
So
You still trying
here's
to
the thing.
please me?
Here's the thing. One thing, and this is a step that I feel that everyone should start with. And I didn't start this recently. I started it years ago because I acknowledged that I was always trying to be agreeable. I started saying no to small things, things that I felt that it's not that big of a deal. And if I'm just uncomfortable with it, I'm just going to say no. Because I think in the past, being a people pleaser, sometimes you just get used to saying yes to everything. Yes, 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 I'll do it. Yeah, I do this. Yeah, I do that. You need this? Yes, I do this. You want me to go downstairs? Yes, I do this. You want me to get to this kitchen? Yes, I do it. All of those things. But start saying no. I think it's important to start saying no to some of those small things.
You never say no to me.
And that's the great thing about it. The great thing about it is when I start saying no, you don't notice them. When I start saying no more, you don't notice them because they're smaller. They're non-essential things in the first place. So I could have things like that burden in my mind where I'm like, I got to do everything. But the reality of it is, you could have been saying no to going to the kitchen and getting a cup of water. She could have got it herself a couple times.
Yeah, that's true. So I think really in that, there was a time in my life where when you did say no, I did hear that no, and it was bothering me. And then I had to overcome some things myself, because our listeners may not know this, but I struggled with trying to control you at times in our relationship. And I wrote about that in several books. But yeah, so I wanted things to be my way, and I wanted you to continue to serve me and treat me good like I met you, But
Right.
you still do that. I think now I appreciate you more.
Yeah.
I think back then you felt the unappreciation. So the things that you did, it felt more like a burden. When now we're just connected with love and appreciation and gratitude, it makes a difference. And it's not like people pleasing.
Yeah. And the ironic thing about that and how we started and where we are, and the fact that we talking about people pleasing and considering things that could be considered people pleasing, I think the need for praise to feel good is a element of people pleasing as well.
Yeah.
And the fact that I think I took pride in being appreciated verbally and thank yous and all of these things. And I think that too can create a moment where your self-worth can be attached to the praise that other people give you, which in essence is a part of people pleasing as well. So before we go on, I just want to talk to you all about the Back to Love bundle on the website www.realloveexist.com. The Back to Love bundle includes 2 books, Addicted to Pain and You Are Enough, and a series of virtual videos for your enjoyment. So if you are struggling with a broken heart, you can be encouraged by our video called Heal Your Broken Heart. Or if you want to hear me and Rainie talk about the topics of love, relationships, marriage, and infidelity, we got a video series for that as well. And we also have a video series called Self-Love, Self-Care that all goes into achieving your goals, whether it's educational goals or relationship goals. But the greatest project you could ever work on is on you. So you can take a look at the video called Self-Love, Self-Care that goes beyond your situation and helps you invest in your mind, your spirit, and your body. So to learn more about the video series and the bundle, the Back to Love bundle, visit us at www.realloveexist.com.
The thing is, we really do desire to love people and serve people and to be of good, I guess I say good mind as towards having a relationship with other people in that way. But when people pleasing becomes toxic is when it affects you as a person in a negative way, and where you're feeling burdened, when you're feeling like you're losing yourself.
Yeah.
So that's the difference.
Right.
Because you can love to serve people and love to give and support people, but when it becomes negative is when you start losing yourself, when you no longer have a voice, when you no longer have that joy and that peace and love and happiness that life brings, but you feel so empty, so depleted.
Right. And I think you should, ultimately, we want to be cheerful in the things that we do. We want to be a cheerful giver. We want to be a cheerful servant in every area of our life. We want to be a cheerful companion. But being a giver and being a server and being a good partner and companion shouldn't compromise who you are as yourself. It shouldn't compromise your beliefs. It shouldn't compromise your standards. And I think that's where people pleasing can become toxic and where people pleasing can become unhealthy, because you create these things around what you do and how you want people to feel that ultimately compromises what you believe in. And they put your opinion on the back burner. They don't allow you to freely be who you are, who God created you to be, and to flow just in your personality. You kind of hide who you are, what you believe, and the things you desire to do for the sake of making sure that everybody's comfortable, making sure they see you as a servant, making sure you get those accolades and you're getting praised for the things that you do. And people are always happy around you and happy with you. But that's where, if you compromise in who you are, what you believe in, and how you go about being yourself in the midst of other people and allow their feelings to control how you flow in the midst of that crowd, that's where it can become unhealthy.
Yeah. And really, I talk about this to a lot of women in different relationships that they're in these relationships and they really believe that it's love. They believe they're in love. They're in love with a toxic relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're experiencing a lot of drama, a lot of heartbreak, a lot of ups and downs, highs and lows, pleasure and pain. You know, it's just a connection of all of that. And I asked them the question that I asked on that book, You Are Enough. Is it real love or your need for validation? And I tell them, let's analyze this. you're with this person because you're seeking someone to validate who you are, because you want someone to tell you, to show you, to reflect to you that you are enough, when really you don't need another person to do that. And actually, another person can't really do that, because it's what they can do is only temporary. And then you go back to feeling low again. It's just like you can have millions of people all over the world tell you you're beautiful, how great you are, how wonderful you are. But if you don't believe that you're beautiful, that you're great, that you're wonderful, those million people, they don't even matter.
Yeah.
It's emptiness. But when you really believe it in yourself, it is beyond a million likes. It's beyond a million compliments.
Right. And it creates authentic relationships. It's a challenge to have an authentic relationship with somebody when you're not authentically yourself. When you're not being who you are, when you have those shortcomings, you can be in a relationship for years, really, and look back and be wondering, like, you say you're not happy. I haven't done anything different. What changed? Or now you saying this, what happened? We've been doing the same thing for years. But the fact of it is that people hide who they are. They're not always being authentic. Relationships can be superficial at times because people are
Yeah.
trying to impress each other and they don't share their feelings. Like, it's one thing to be courting. It's one thing to do things for somebody because you care about them. But it's another thing to be open enough to express your likes, your disappointments, your sadness, your moments of sadness, and your moments of clarity, so that you have an authentic, open, free relationship that's not based on just doing stuff and superficial activities.
You know what? That is so true. And I believe it's really, people, it's exhausting to be in a relationship where you're not being who you really are. And so after so many years of hiding your truth, of hiding your authenticity, and you finally have had enough, can you imagine how that would feel to a person? That's how I talk to so many people, and they say, I was in a 20-year toxic relationship. I was in a 30-year relationship, and now I'm free, and now I'm traveling, I'm enjoying my life. And you're like, what? You could have done those things whenever you was ready. But the fact that you decided to hold on to something that wasn't real, it kept you in that place.
Right. It doesn't benefit you whatsoever to stay in a place of brokenness, to stay in a place of disappointment when you have the power to express those thoughts and express those feelings and take the necessary steps to change those things. It benefits you in no way to take yourself through that type of mental exercise for the sake of making someone else happy or for the sake of making sure everybody else is pleased with you.
Yes. Let's talk about some of the signs if you may be dealing with being a people pleaser. Here are some signs you might want to look out for that can show you if you are actually a people pleaser. So, 1, you pretend to agree with everyone or most people. You pretend to agree. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. 2, you feel responsible for how others feel.
Yeah. Number 3, you apologize often. And that was something that I think I used to do. Apologize all the time just to get it over with. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's okay. You apologize often. Number 4, you struggle to say no. That's what I mentioned before. You have to take moments to truly communicate what you feel and say no to situations you don't agree with.
Yes, saying no is something that I have I'll tell you, in the past couple of years, I've learned how to say no, and I love it. And if I say no and someone can't handle it, and in a previous episode, I talked about someone that got upset after I said no to a business deal and blocked me. They blocked me after that. And I was like, whoa, because I said no, that's it. I'm loving it. I'm
Right.
loving saying my no now. And so number 5, you act like the people around you. Are you really being true to who you are? Or are you acting like the crowd?
Yeah. And the next one is you go to great lengths to avoid conflict. You go out of your way just so that you don't have to face any challenges. And the last one is you don't admit when you're feeling hurt. When your feelings are hurt, you don't admit it.
Yeah.
You keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that?
To not admit when your feelings are hurt?
Yeah. Have you ever been in a situation or a relationship? Because I think this is key for relationships. I think sometimes when we're out in different places, I think there's a way to communicate things. But I think in relationships, it's important to be able to communicate when your feelings are hurt. Whether you do it immediately or not, that's up to you. But have you ever dealt with that?
I have in the past. I have. I don't get my feelings hurt like that anymore, but I have in the past.
Yeah. And so what did you do when it was a moment when your feelings were hurt? Did you immediately address it, or did you just let it go, not mention it at all?
Well, in our relationship, I always immediately addressed it.
Woo. Really?
In the past. But
in the present, you don't get hurt, just you said.
Well, I don't say that to be like, oh, I mean, I've gotten to a place now I've done a lot of inner work. I do inner work every single day. I have a morning routine, and I keep myself in a state to where if someone says something that could hurt my feelings, or I may feel off or something, I have to ask myself, is this really personally? Is this something that's going on personally? Most of the time, and mainly all of the time, what somebody says or do has nothing to do with me. It's basically, I know that now that it's something that they're dealing with. So if you come to me and you say something that's off, I'll bring it to your attention and say, you sound a little off. You sound like you're a little frustrated, but I'm not going to come to you in a confrontational way and give you like the energy. I'm going to come to you more like, I noticed you seem off, and the way you said that, I felt that energy coming back from you. And so I'm not going to take it personally, because I know that you really love me and you're not intentionally trying to hurt me. Maybe you have an off day. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're frustrated.
So that sounds like you came to a place of growth and maturity to be able to say that not everything that's not the energy that everybody's putting off, whether they're telling me something or whether they're saying something to me or about what they feel about me or about the situation that we may be involved in, it's not me.
Exactly. It's not, and it has nothing to do with me.
It's something that they feel. Their feelings, I am not in control of their feelings, nor are they in control of mine. Exactly. And I don't have to take those things that they say personally. That's where you've grown to.
Yes. And for example, like the person I just mentioned who wanted to do a business deal and they end up blocking me. When I saw that, when that energy came to me, I recognized what it was. I actually recognized that person must be dealing with some type of hurt, pain, rejection, because the way that they respond and reacted was very, I just thought it was kind of extreme. And so because that person is not my husband, they're not my family member, they're not, no one that's near and dear to me, they're an associate who had contact to me. I made the decision that because they sent that energy, I will no longer allow them that opportunity to send any more energy like that my way. And they don't play a major role in my life. So because of that, I made sure the platforms where I wasn't blocked, I made sure I blocked them, and I made sure that I blocked their number so they can no longer call me. So that's how I protect my peace. Now, if it was somebody that's close to me, a relative, someone that I value, we will have a talk. We will have a conversation in a way where there's some type of understanding or I get some type of understanding to move forward in love. and really not to, to have some boundaries with that person.
Yeah. And I think that that's key. That's very important. I think I feel the same way as far as how I was able to grow in the area of people pleasing. And ultimately, it boils down to not taking things personal and not allowing what people say, what people do to mentally be in my own mind a personal attack on myself or my character, because I know that the things that I do are done in love. I try to do them in love. I try to do my best to stay true to what I believe in. And if I face any conflict or I face any issues where people are unhappy or displeased, I just don't take it personal. I try my best not to take it personal. And it doesn't always be easy. It's not always easy to not hear what's being said. I hear it, but I can redirect my thoughts. And I've been, you can practice redirecting your thoughts by filling your mind with affirmations and positive things and things of that nature. But ultimately, the responsibility controlling your feelings is yours and yours alone.
Yeah. And really, it takes a level of self-control. And I have been able to build that self-control through meditation, through first controlling my mind. If I can control my mind, I can control my entire being, which means no matter what comes to me, who comes at me, they don't have to have me. They don't have to have my peace. They don't have to have my state, because I have conditioned myself to control with self-control. So to control myself, basically, I don't have to control them. But knowing how to control myself is just powerful.
Yeah.
This is really good. And another thing I want to say, it was another one that says you may be a people pleaser if you need praise to feel good. Oh, the recognition, the accolades, and all of that stuff, the awards. If you need that stuff, the likes, the shares, the fans, the followers, if you need that to feel good, you may be a people pleaser. You may be doing things to please people so that you get that praise. This is good. So I'm really enjoying these conversations.
Yeah, good edifying convo.
All of you that are listening, I hope this message has really impacted you in a positive way. And I really just want to encourage you to ask yourself, are you struggling with people pleasing? How can you overcome that? How can you eliminate those emotionally unavailable relationships from your life and no longer seek the validation of others, but to validate yourself? Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, be blessed. Thanks for tuning in for this episode of the Rainie Howard Show. Be sure to sign up to our emailing list at realloveexists.com and rainiehoward.com. We want to hear from you. Send your feedback on today's episode on Facebook and Instagram at Rainie Howard. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to download and subscribe so that you don't miss our next episode. Thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to connecting with you in our next show.